Hello, sixth graders. Here is math lesson 81, arithmetic with units of measure. Okay, I think the titles always throw us off a little bit. So really, the title of this is telling us it just means doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division with numbers, or in this case, units of measure. Okay, so feet, inches, centimeters, could be cups, whatever. So some type of unit of measure. We have to make sure all of the units of measure are the same. For example, if we're doing, if we're saying something about inches and then we're talking about centimeters, we have to make them deal with the same unit of measure. And if they aren't, we have to convert them so that we can deal with them. And we'll see what I mean by that in some examples here. So first problem, add 2 feet and 12 inches. Okay, we have a unit of measure in feet and a unit of measure in inches. We cannot have two different units. We have to convert something. So we could either put this down into inches or we could put this into feet. Well, let's try putting, this looks pretty easy to put into feet, right? How many feet is 12 inches? Well, that would be 1 foot. So 2 feet plus 1 foot would be 3 feet. Sorry about my neatness here. Okay, the units stay the same. So this is like a lesson in labeling too, okay? We wouldn't just say 3, we'd have to say 3 feet because we have to make sure we are clear on what we're dealing with. All right, another thing that we're going to come across is what do we do when we multiply or divide with units of measure. Now, backing up a little bit, when we add or subtract, the units stay the same. So if I'm adding miles together, my label for my answer is going to be miles. If I have 20 miles and I subtract 10 miles, my answer is going to be labeled miles. That's easy enough in addition and subtraction, but it does change a little bit when we have multiplication. So the big question here is, what do we do with the units of measure when we multiply? Now, we've done this before, and I will say that this caused us a little bit of trouble sometimes because we forget how to label these. But think about when we found the area of a square, or a rectangle for that matter. Let's say that this square is 2 inches by 2 inches, okay? Well, what we do to find the area, remember area equals length times width. So when we were doing this, we would take 2 inches times 2 inches, which is like 2 times 2 and inches times inches. So it's 4 inches, but something times itself is squared. So that's why our area label would end up being squared. And a lot of times we forgot that. But if we understand the logic behind it, it hopefully helps us remember that. All right, so the same thing is, so this is true whenever we are multiplying units of measure. When we multiply them together, they're going to be squared, okay? Dividing is something different, but it's almost like working backwards from what we just did. Units also change when we divide measurements. For example, if we know both the area and the length of a rectangle, we can find the width of the rectangle by dividing it. So if we know that the area of this rectangle is 21 centimeters squared, and we know that this side is 7 centimeters, well, we know that to find the area, we multiply length times width, and if 21 is 7W, we would be able to solve this, right? So we would know this side is 3. But here's the thing, we have to deal with the labels. And so they're setting it up right here. So take a look here. We have 21 centimeters squared. That's our area. And we're dividing it by 7 centimeters. So they're showing you that we really have, when we talk about centimeters squared, we have 21 centimeters squared is like multiplying it by itself, right? Just think about that. Well, let me see, way up here at the top. 2 squared is what? Well, it's 2 times 2. So centimeters squared equals centimeters times centimeters. Same thing, okay? We're just substituting letters in for the numbers. And then they put it over, because we're dividing it by 7 centimeters. And all we're doing here is canceling. 7 is 1 times 7. I should do this way. 21 is 3 times 7. So I can cross out the 7s. So 21 divided by 7 is 3. It's a really long way of saying that. So notice how we just canceled out. So we're going to do the same thing here. 1 centimeter and 1 centimeter can be canceled out. So our answer is 3 centimeters, because that's what I've left over. Okay. So another example here, example 3 at the bottom. 25 miles squared divided by 5 miles. So we're going to take 25 divided by 5. Well, that equals, we know that, right? 5. But we have miles squared, which is miles times miles, dividing it by miles. We cancel these things out. We only have 1 left. I'm going to put it over here. So my answer to that would be 5 miles. Okay, quotient would be 5 miles. All it's showing you is that we have to cancel out the label as well. All right, now another situation is going to be sometimes we don't have the same unit, and we're talking about dividing, okay? So when we divide measurements, the units will not reduce if we don't have the same one. So take a look at this problem right here. If a car travels 300 miles in 6 hours, we can find the average speed of the car by dividing 300 miles by 6 hours, okay? We cannot reduce this because they can't cancel each other out. They're different. So the quotient is 50 miles divided by hours, which is miles per hour. Look over here. The word per means for each, and is used in place of the division bar. So miles per hour is what that stands for, okay? So let's take a look at example 4. 300 miles divided by 10 gallons. So what we do is we have 300 divided by 10. Okay, now I'm reminding you of the things we did. It's a fraction. It's a division problem, but it's also a fraction. So we can take off a 0 off of each one, and we're left with 30. Super easy math there, right? Now we can't reduce miles and gallon. We cannot, whoops, oh, I put that on the wrong side. We cannot cross those out. So what we have is, look at the bottom there, miles per gallon, because that's what that fraction bar represents when we have those labels. Okay, there is your assignment. If you struggle with this, come back to that video with your problem and watch through it, and I think it'll help you make sense of it. And then when you're done with that, you can go on to Edmodo. Good job, you guys. Stick with it. If you have questions, let me know.